My name is Marcelo Javier Pereira. I'm the co-founder and co-artistic director of BATCO.
Hi, my name is Aidaa Peerzada, and I am a playwright and a performer in BATCO's upcoming production, Googol and One, which opens December
7th.
7th.
Runs through the 22nd also. Googol and One opens December 7th through the 22nd.
Oh my goodness, look, a postcard.
Let's... Like, well, what is the Google? And I'm like, well, it's actually
Who is asking what is the Google?
Everybody. Everybody is like, what is Google? You spelled it wrong. And I'm like, no.
Let's hash this out. First of all, get on Google. Google the number Google, which is...
Googol.
Google.
Google.
Yes.
And that's actually, if I'm...
Because Google is the name of the corporation.
Which is actually, but it was a misspelling, like it was a purposeful misspelling of Google.
Yeah.
The number Google, which I believe is 10 to the 100th power. Mm-hmm. Which, like, It's
like more than all of the...
It's been...
particles.
Over a decade since I've taken a math class.
Universe.
But that's a lot of numbers.
It's a lot of numbers.
A lot. It's something like more than there are stars in the sky.
Yeah, it's like more than there is... It's more. That's what it means.
So imagine a Google and one.
Exactly. Okay. Google is 10 to the 100th power. Yes, I'm right. A Google is larger than the number of elementary particles in the universe.
Boom.
We, young performers, I started writing in college, sort of as a medium of like when young artists are studying, a lot of the institutions that like train, maintain, and grow us are white dominant institutions. It's really easy to constantly get a message of you don't belong and you're exotic and you don't belong in our stories and we're trying to fit you in. Maybe we're trying to be inclusive, but even from a historical standpoint, we learn history of theater that often excludes the idea that anyone who wasn't European was ever telling stories. The festival for which I wrote the first iteration of this play, and that after we did it at school, we applied to take it to the New York Fringe Festival. At the time it was called Scheherazade, after the sort of protagonist of the frame tale of the Arabian Nights. The story was about her, and there were folk tales from all over the world. It was based on this idea from the Arabian Nights of this woman who's telling stories for a undefined amount of time to this caliph who, if he is not engaged by the story, is going to send her to go die. There were folk tales, and we did a lot of research to figure out what stories to choose from, and it didn't matter what time period they were from, and the whole play was very much about this relationship between Scheherazade and this Caliph Shahryar. An image like Beauty and the Beast or Sleeping Beauty, I think growing up, that story was an image that resonated and was imprinted like on my mind when I was really little, just like as like a dichotomy, of relationships. It's eternal, like Romeo and Juliet, Scheherazade and Shahryar. That was one of the images from my like upbringing that I never saw represented by anyone else. And I loved the idea that there is this person who could just continue to tell stories to the wonder of someone who could just do that. And so that iteration of the play that we did in New York was all about her. And then, we did the play and it was really exciting. And then when I would hear feedback from my peers, a response to the play was like, oh, it was really cute, like it was really fun to see, ethnic flavoring in these cute stories. It was all what me and Rodney, who had been spearheading the project, thought of as deeply empowering, was perceived and received as like intaking fetishized niche. And nobody meant any harm. Yeah. They were just like, wow, I had cumin ice cream, and that's kind of the same response that the play got. Was like, oh my god, have you heard of coriander? Like, it was so cute. So that took me to like a really sad place, because I was like, wow, like I did this thing that was incredibly empowering. It was super cool. It was this amazing feat that we had put a lot of energy into, because we were like having an imaginal past, having a fictive world where you exist. having fairy tales where you exist is a part of affirming your day-to-day life. So I imagine that like other little girls who can see themselves in all of the characters that I grew up with, like now we have like Tiana and Moana, but before that it was like you're Pocahontas, you're Jasmine,
You're Mulan.
or you're Mulan, but mostly not. Like mostly like it was like they were still like other to this backdrop of what it meant to like be a princess, what it meant to be an ingenue, what it meant to be like a desirable human being. We were really excited to share these stories because that's what it meant for us, and that was not how it was received by our peers. So then I went into this deep dive of like, how can I make visible what I see as empowering in learning about folktales from the whole world visible. And so that's where I started to reformulate what the play was about, and I realized that what it was really about was about what it meant for someone who was for us creatives to be learning about and discovering these worlds that were represented in these folktales. So if you have a story that's about like an African king, what's fascinating about it is not just the folktale, it's imagining an African king, because we don't get to do that. Like this is a post Black Panther and Obama world, which is amazing.
And scary and terrifying because we're in a...
Okay, yeah, it's more scary and terrifying. Okay, well, that was supposed to be good.
Oh, I'm sorry.
The response that we got to that play of people diminishing what those stories could mean for our world was the experience that we as like heterosis white people experience by being other, by being treated and considered as other. It's like, oh yeah, you're a niche, you're a special thing that isn't real.
Be happy with what you have.
Yeah, so the whole rewriting process became about trying to figure out how I could deconstruct just like what it means to look at history and to look at stories and narrative when you're constantly being barred from participating in generating those narratives and generating history and saying what's true or what's not true. And so that's why now it's called One Googol and One, because I sort of put the context in which the play was created on the center stage, because I realized what was interesting to us was not just the stories that we were telling, it was us telling the stories and what that meant. That became a process of figuring out like how to dramatize and theatricalize those moments of reckoning with history and reckoning with all of the complexity of having a cultural or ethnic identity or marker on your person, like your face or your hair, that is completely unrecognized in your day-to-day life, but you're still judged for it. So the things that make it valid or exciting or beautiful are never remembered, but the things that make it like different are. How to find empowerment within that, and that's where the story became less about all of the folk tales and more about us in the world, and finding out that maybe there is a creative space where we can be included. We can be the princes and the princesses and the monomyth heroes that go on journeys, and it's not dependent on you looking a certain way. The stories actually exist in real life for all kinds of people. You know, there are all kinds of people on the planet that have done all kinds of amazing things.